My topic for you today was an overview of the what's being done in terms of automated navigation for inland waterways. Maybe once you've listened to to Yolande, Jérôme, and the others, and once you've seen what happens in inland navigation, you can better compare and contrast the approaches to automated vessels. So one element is that we do not have the same regulators, and we have an interesting mix of European and national regulators, and a key player for especially in terms of automation, the CCNR. CCNR is French for Commission Centrale pour la Navigation du Rhin. It's an international body that regulates navigation on the Rhine, set up by treaty. The current treaty is the Mannheim Convention, which predates the EU and a lot of other international bodies by a couple of 100 years. Well, it's 1815 for the origins of free navigation of the Rhine. The CCNR also provides the secretariat of the standard setting body CESNI, which defines standards for vessels, crews, and also information technology and information sharing in inland waterways. And the CESNI produces things like ESTRIN, which are then incorporated into Rhine regulations or EU regulations. So beyond regulation, and the reason I wanted to focus on CCNR is that the remit of CCNR covers pretty much any and all questions related to the development of navigation on the Rhine. So it's a fairly broad approach, and given the importance of Rhine navigation, at least in Europe, and their role as secretariat of CESNI, it is really key player in when you look at how automation is progressing in inland navigation. The strategic concepts is why CCNR is working on this. Well, pretty much like IMO in 2017 decided to set up to start working on the topic with the regulatory scoping exercise. In CCNR, the CCNR was given a mandate in the Mannheim Declaration of 2018, ministerial declaration, saying, well, we call on the CCNR to promote the development of digitalization, automation, and other modern technologies, with 3 targets, and I think it's worth mentioning them because they are the guiding principles of the work of CCNR. Safety, meaning keeping the equivalent level of safety to what we have today in inland navigation, which is very high. Sustainability and competitiveness, meaning that these what's being developed has to help the industry. So this mandate was translated into a vision for automation. So 2022 to 2028, we are now in the beginning of 2026. So we're still got a couple of years to work through that detailed vision and produce the end results. I shared a link. Just a word. The languages of CCNR do not include English, so a lot of the documents, not all, are only in French, German, and Dutch. Apologies for that, but these are great languages to learn if you don't speak them already. So our work, the work program of CCNR, I'll show quickly what's being done and how it is of interest. So. Just a word before I begin. Why do we do things differently? Well, first of all, as you understand, the legal framework and the bodies regulating inland navigation are not the same. So it's basically a different bunch of people. Secondly, it's worth bearing in mind that automation of vessels on inland waterways has its own challenges. We're not the same as other land-based modes of transportation, and we are not maritime transport. And just to give a few ideas of what's different, the composition of the crews, or even the notion of a crew, is something you do not find in other land-based modes of transport, such as road or rail. We navigate, sure, but we navigate in a very closed and restricted environment, meaning that maneuvering is done completely differently. We have these objects, and there's a photo on the right of we have called locks. We also have issues with bridge heights, water heights, and generally speaking, the maneuverability of the vessels is, as you can infer from the picture, not something that needs to be taken into consideration very specifically. You're never far from the nearest obstacle when you're in navigation. So from an institutional and organizational perspective, the first job was to set up a structure to manage all the questions and issues relating to automation. And this was done through a committee of CCNR, the RN committee, so re-established in 2020. The job of the RN committee is to examine requests for experimentations, to prepare decisions to authorize the exemptions from navigation rules to allow these automated navigation experimentations, and more generally to identify the priorities, to coordinate the work, and to steer the work on automated navigation. So it can be research, it can be questions, it can be questions to give passed on to the legal committees of CCNR or the police regulations committees, or and so on and so forth. So it is the, I'd say, the control center of the work done on automated navigation. And one of the productions, and I'll show them quickly, of this committee is a few common tools, including a database of past and current automation projects, be they commercial, academic, and the like. So there's a link there towards that database, which is invaluable. Glossary of terms related to automated navigation and remotely operating craft. We do end up on common words such as remote operating center. Sometimes the exact definition differs from the IMO definition, but not so much. And finally, a common definition of 5 levels of automation in inland waterways. I mean, just as in the maritime world, they're not actually used to define regulatory standards. They're more guidelines. So we haven't abolished them. They're still around, and they're still useful kind of to guide thinking on levels of automation. I think a major difference with the maritime approach is that remote operating doesn't feature in that classification of levels of automation. This is purely about automation, not about where the boat master is physically. Another result of the work done by CCNR in the last few years is a process for allowing autonomous experimentations. This is a step-by-step process. You have a broad overview of it, the 8 steps onto the right of my screen. This actually works because several remote operations have been approved, have gone through those steps, beginning in 2023 with 2 Rhine barges. I think it was 1 self-propelled and 1 push convoy, Perseverance and Privilege, which were remotely operated by the Belgian company based in Antwerp called CFAR. So there have been a few more approvals of experimentation since, and it seems to be accelerating since the last session of the RN committee had many more applications for exemptions than any of the previous sessions put together. That raises the question of streamlining and automating or simplifying the application process, reusing bits of applications that have already been done. So the work on the process is still ongoing. Just a word to say that this is what's happening at CCNR. It has a huge influence, obviously, on what happens elsewhere, but that doesn't prevent national regulators from carrying out their own regulatory exemption processes for their own waterways. So pretty much every country in the EU with any inland waterway network of any significance has adopted a framework for approving experimental vessels. That said, the approval processes differ from one country to the next. And if I return to the example of the Duisburg to Bruges itinerary, you're probably going through several different regulatory areas, including the Rhine for the first 150 kilometers, roughly. Then probably the Netherlands. There is a joint, the Western Scheldt, which is I believe, jointly regulated by Belgium and the Netherlands, and probably on the final approach to Bruges, but I'm not so sure. You would be in the hands of is it the Belgian or the Flemish regulators? What we can see is that there is a lot of testing going on. A lot of it is done in Belgium and the Netherlands, who provide a fairly, I'd say, welcoming environment. Welcoming in that the experiments or the approvals maybe last longer, maybe are over a greater area, and maybe do not require, actually, for each application an ad hoc committee. And actually, we mentioned the Rhine to Scheldt, the Rhine to Bruges, the Duisburg to Bruges route. I should mention that's one of the demonstrators of Seamless is precisely to demonstrate the operation of a vessel across multiple national borders, starting in France, going through a little bit of Wallonia, a big bit of Flanders, and ending up in the port of Antwerp, and then on from Antwerp to Duisburg. So that's one of the endpoints of the Seamless project, is to precisely do some kind of transnational operation of vessels, of automated vessels. So what we can say, just to conclude quickly, is that our own experience building phase, to use the terminology, the IMO terminology, is well underway with a growing number of test deployments. Currently, the market seems to be moving towards remotely operated boats rather than self-driving boats. And the next stage for these remotely operated boats, so currently they have to operate with the full crew on board, is to test the reduction of the crew on board. None of the experimentations have reached that stage yet, but they are getting very close to it. And there are still many challenges beyond just navigating. Traffic rules, interactions between humans and machines, which is the whole point of automation. Our crewing requirements, especially for reduced crew boats, and as for maritime cybersecurity and liability. With those words,